By the end of this episode, I'm going to prove to you why you might actually be a toxic person. And also, I'm going to be proving my theory about what makes a person toxic or what makes a man toxic. My theory just boils down to this. People who are toxic are just people who can't handle their insecurities. Just that. They're just people who can't handle their insecurities. If you have ever come across an insecure person, you have come across a toxic person. They might be toxic to you, to the people around them, or they might be toxic to themselves. Sorry for skipping over my words there. I have to look for my glass of water before we begin. So let's begin in 3, 2, and 1. So welcome back to Strive, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Lord Garcia, and super great to have you here in episode 4 of the movie review series. You have been being very consistent. I'm very proud of that. Yeah, well, that's awesome. So yeah, that's absolutely great. So welcome to episode 4 of the movie review series, and today we're going to be discussing what toxic masculinity actually looks like. Last time we discussed about what true masculinity looks like. We broke down the movie Gladiator, and we really went deep into what makes a man masculine. And today we're going to be discussing what makes a man toxic and how it looks like in real life, like in everyday interaction, in the modern day and modern age. And before we begin, go down to the comments and answer this question for me. Have you ever been accused for being a toxic person? Have you ever come across a person telling you, you're Long, you're John, you're Vincent, you are a very toxic person? Have you ever come across such a person? Please go down to the comments. I would love to hear that. I have been accused of that so many times. It's actually very tiring, honestly. It still goes on to this day. Not by my girlfriend, by the way, but just to this day, I am constantly being told I am a very toxic person. Even sometimes you might see this person and be like, okay, I'm not toxic, but I just say it's okay. So let's get out into it after you answer that question. 3, 2, and 1. So in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that toxic men are just weak men or men with insecurities. So let me just go deeper into that. So toxic masculine men are just men with insecurities. And are just men with insecurities and cannot handle those insecurities. So weak character men and men who just have those insecurities within them are those who tend to radiate a lot of toxic energy. This is because these men cannot handle or come to terms with their insecurities or character flaws, as I like to call them. They're always flaws or just weaknesses. Just bear with me, just go along with me. So hence they cannot handle, these insecurities lead them to overcompensate certain traits within them or overcompensate certain external things that are within their reach. And I'm going to give you examples so you can be able to understand what I mean by that. So by exaggerating or overcompensating these certain traits, because men and women have certain traits, we all have the same traits. A woman can be aggressive, I can be aggressive. A woman can be emotionally suppressive, I can be emotionally suppressive, or can be less emotional, but all of us share the same traits. But for men, there are certain traits which are higher, and for women, there are certain traits which are lower. And there are certain traits which are lower in men that are higher in women. So just get that dynamic. So they tend to overcompensate certain traits within them, or even external things which are outside them, with the goal of covering up, not to solve, but to cover up those insecurities, hence making them feel better about themselves and also making them feel worthy of the title a man. Did you get that to this point? If you're with me, drop a like. If you're with me, drop a like. So I'll be giving key examples as I go along with this episode, and I'll be giving examples from the film, and also trying to dabble in some I don't know why I just have a flu that is going on ridiculously. I don't know. I have never healed from my flus, by the way. I do not heal from my flus. I do not know what's wrong with me. So welcome back to Strive, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Lord Garcia, and super great to have you here in episode 4 of the movie review series. You have been being very consistent. I'm very proud of that. Yeah, well, that's awesome. So yeah, that's absolutely great. So Welcome to episode 4 of the movie review series, and today we're going to be discussing what toxic masculinity actually looks like. Last time we discussed about what true masculinity looks like. We broke down the movie Gladiator, and we really went deep into what makes a man masculine. And today we're going to be discussing what makes a man toxic and how it looks like in real life, like in everyday interaction, the modern day and modern age. And before we begin, go down to the comments and answer this question for me. Have you ever been accused for being a toxic person? Have you ever come across a person telling you, you're Long, you're John, you're Vincent, you are a very toxic person? Have you ever come across such a person? Please go down to the comments. I would love to hear that. I have been accused of that so many times. It's actually very tiring, honestly. It still goes on to this day. Not by my girlfriend, by the way, but just to this day, I am constantly being told I am a very toxic person. Even sometimes you might see this person and be like, okay, I'm not toxic, but I just say it's okay. So let's get out into it after you answer that question. 3, 2, and 1. So in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that toxic men are just weak men or men with insecurities. So let me just go deeper into that. So toxic masculine men are just men with insecurities, and are just men with insecurities and cannot handle those insecurities. So weak character men and men who just have those insecurities within them are those who tend to radiate a lot of toxic energy. This is because these men cannot handle or come to terms with their insecurities or character flaws, as I like to call them. They're always flaws or just weaknesses. Just bear with me, just go along with me. So hence they cannot handle, these insecurities lead them to overcompensate certain traits within them or overcompensate certain external things that are within their reach. And I'm going to give you examples so you can be able to understand what I mean by that. So by exaggerating or overcompensating these certain traits, because men and women have certain traits, we all have the same traits. A woman can be aggressive, I can be aggressive. A woman can be emotionally suppressive, I can be emotionally suppressive, or can be less emotional, but all of us share the same traits. But for men, there are certain traits which are higher, and for women, there are certain traits which are lower. And there are certain traits which are lower in men that are higher in women. So just get that dynamic. So they tend to overcompensate certain traits within them, or even external things which are outside them, with the goal of covering up, not to solve, but to cover up those insecurities. Hence, making them feel better about themselves and also making them feel worthy of the title a man. Did you get that to this point? If you're with me, drop a like. If you're with me, drop a like. So I'll be giving key examples as I go along with this episode, and I'll be giving examples from the film, and also trying to dabble in some I don't know why I just have a flu that is going on ridiculously. I don't know. I have never healed from my flus, by the way. I do not heal from my flus. I do not know what's wrong with me. So I will be giving key examples from the film, today's film. I think I'll go deep into it in just a few minutes. I'll be giving key examples from the film, but let me just give you one so you can be able to understand the basis of my theory. Now, someone who is constantly seeking validation from others, instead of solving the actual problem, which is just raising his self-esteem, detaching from other people's opinions, and also practicing self-love, instead of doing all that and listening to Longasi and also giving them some good advice, they instead overcompensate by, number one, they buy people things like sweet snacks and also drinks in the bar. They give everyone a ride home just to be able to get that pat on the back and being told, hey, you did good, thank you very much, Manzaya Santisana. They always say yes to everything when someone asks them for a favor or something, even if that particular favor doesn't really benefit them or doesn't really sit right with them. You just say yes, not to anger this person, just to get validation from them that they're, hey, you're a good person, thank you very much, and stuff like that. So that's a prime definition of someone being very toxic to themselves. Did you get that? I think when I was coming up with the script, I was really like, oh wow, okay. That makes a lot of sense. And if you look into it, and really dive deep into it as we're going to do in this episode, and you might actually find yourself being like, oh, wow, there's a time I was doing that. There was a time I was being toxic myself. And to drive this point home, so here's the definition. Here's the definition of toxicity. In general, toxicity is the creation of an environment that is uncomfortable to live in. Did you get that? It's the creation of an environment which is uncomfortable to live in. So if you want to know you're being toxic to yourself, try and be more mindful of how you act. And if you feel some certain discomfort, even leaving your room in a pile of trash, that is being toxic to yourself. It can go as low as that, and it can go as high as we are going to see in this particular film we're going to be breaking down today. So that's just the prime definition of what toxicity is. Toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. Creating an uncomfortable environment and condition for people to live in, or for you to live in. If there is an uncomfortable way of you are living at certain moment, that's just toxicities. And some of you are living in those conditions. But how you can be toxic to yourself is just what I've described. So let's just see how you can find out whether someone is being toxic towards you. It's actually very good to be able to spot them, because people tend to tolerate a lot of nonsense just because they are ignorant. They can't see that this person is being toxic to them. And also, it's very good to be able to know if you're being toxic to others, because at times someone can be a narcissist and you completely don't even know. They themselves don't even know they're being a narcissist, and you yourself don't even know this person is a narcissist. So I'm going to be educating you how to spot those traits and be able to handle them accordingly. Majorly, we're not going to be delving deep into the how to solve it, but how to spot it, because it always starts with self-awareness, and self-awareness is the biggest thing that I promote. Or being self-aware or awareness is the biggest thing I promote in this channel, or one of the biggest things that I promote in this channel. So if you want a part 2 of how to handle it, please go down in the comments, and just to make sure you know, today's episode is just all about educating you how to spot and how to identify whether you're being toxic to yourself or someone is being toxic to you. So today's film, sorry I didn't introduce it earlier, today's film is called American Psycho. I watched this film last year. It was very captivating. The reason I watched it because Christian Bale, my second best actor in the whole world, was in it, and I was like, I'm interested. And if you've seen these memes, let me just pop a few pictures on there. If you've seen these memes, that's just a part of the American Psycho. So American Psycho is just a movie that portrays the greed and also the greed of the United States. How men have just become all about status, class, and success, as we're going to be seeing in this particular video. So Christian Bale in the American Psycho plays Patrick Maben, this good-looking, successful Wall Street guy with perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect apartment, and as well a very dark side. At first glance, you might look at him and say, he is the perfect description of what men are told to be. Be confident, be well-groomed, be rich, aim to be rich, be in control, be good-looking. But when you go deeper into the film, you realize that there is nothing stable about Patrick Bateman. He is hollow. Everything about him, the style, the smile, the success, it is all a mask. That mask, which is something that most of us actually wear, that mask is meant to overcompensate or hide his weaknesses and his insecurities, and you're going to see why he's hiding them, and you're going to be able to realize why some of us hide our own insecurities. So American Psycho isn't just a thriller, it's just a weird movie. I really encourage those who haven't watched it to go and watch it. But American Psycho is just a psychological mirror, a mirror that shows us what happens to men when they can't handle their insecurities. So the first thing you notice about Patrick Bateman is his emotional suppression, which is the first thing we're going to be diving into, and also the first thing you should look out for a person who is being toxic to themselves or being toxic towards you. He is cold. He is robotic. You can't tell if he's feeling anything. Every smile is forced. Every gesture is calculated. There's this famous scene in the movie. He's doing his morning routine, narrating about his skincare and his workout, and then he says this iconic line. There's an idea of Patrick Bateman, but there is no real me. That line is very haunting because it's not just about him. It's about what a lot of men look like in today's society. Men who are taught that emotional or being emotional equals weakness. Being vulnerable equals weakness. Real men don't cry. That vulnerability is for the soft ones. But here's the twist. The more you deny your emotions, the more in control they are from the inside. Suppression doesn't kill emotions. It actually buries them alive. And when you bury emotions, they come out in a different form. They transmute in a different way. They come out as numbness. They come out as anger, as an addiction, as burnout, because it's buried alive. And when someone is buried alive, they try to break out. So these emotions that you're suppressing try to break out, but in a different form. And that's how toxicity starts. Not from men being evil, but from men being afraid of being seen as less, of men being afraid of being seen as vulnerable, of men being afraid of being seen as they are not enough. They're not willing to say that, hey, I'm hurt, I need help. Or when they can't express their sadness, what they do is they side with sarcasm, or they hide it with sarcasm, with jokes, and with stuff like that. You see people making a lot of jokes. Sometimes it might be something that they're hiding. They're not willing to confront something, hence they just transmute it, or they just make a witty joke and they just leave it up there. Sometimes I remember at some point at 2020 I was like that, and a certain lady we were working with her on a certain project I was doing computer class at that time. We were working on a certain project and I was helping her out, and she told me, hey Lon, why do you always make these jokes? And I was like, huh? Not in 2020, not in 2020, 2023. And I was like, why are you making all these jokes? And I was like, huh? What? I just love making jokes. And she pointed out that you always make jokes, especially at those times when we were serious and when you're confronted by something. And I was like, hey, we've only known each other 2 weeks, man. How do you know all this about me? And I was taken back, and I was like, oh, okay. The reason I'm like that, this is what she told me. The reason you might be like that is because you don't want to confront a lot of things about yourself. And I was like, that entire project, I think she did it herself, because I was like, oh my god. She's still, we lost contact till this point, but I was like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of freaking sense. And that's how most men are today. Instead of confronting these things that are in front of them, they tend to let it out in a different way. Like, for example, me, I was letting it out in form of jokes. I still joke to this point, and most of them are jokes, but till that point, it actually came to me at this point when I remembered what that lady told me, and I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of freaking sense. So you have to understand that what you're doing, that emotional suppression, is like you're carrying armor, a certain shield with you. And shields, most of them are made of metal. And metal at some point gets very, very heavy. And at some point you have to let it go. And when it comes to emotions, when they get let out, it tends to be a bit of a bloodbath. So the first thing you have to look out, ladies and gentlemen, for the ladies who are watching this, you have to look out for a person who is being very emotionally suppressive. And all the things that I've just mentioned, look for them and just write them down. And also for the gents who want to know they're being toxic themselves, just keep a journal of that. Then the next thing is dominance. Patrick Bateman, his entire life is all about control. His image, his body, his circle, even the people who are around him. There's this iconic business card scene where he and his co-workers are comparing business cards, how they look like, how slick they are, where they made it. He gets absolutely shattered when someone's business card looks way better than his. And I was like, that is so fucking petty. But that is so accurate of what is happening to today's modern men. It's not just about the piece of paper, it's about the identity it represents. He only feels valuable when he's above others. Patrick Bateman feels valuable when he's above others. There are some men today who are watching this video, who are going to watch this video, who only feel valuable when they are above others. And that's the mistake a lot of people miss. That's the mistake with people's idea of masculinity today. The need to dominate, the need to compete with others, the need to win, the need to fight. It's very inherent. There's a good kind, but most people lean on the toxic kind of competition, the toxic kind of dominance, the toxic kind of always wanting to be right. But when manhood depends on being better than others, it is absolutely very fragile, because when you go outside, you will meet the next guy who is way better than you. And after you've seen that, your whole identity, your whole sense of self will be shattered. If you see someone who is a better actor than you, if you see someone who is a better racer than you, if you see someone who is faster than you on the track, if you spot that and your sense of self is always leaning on being better than others, your sense of self will collapse. And that's the mistake of people today. They identify themselves with this, or specifically men, they identify themselves with being better than others. I want to compete with this person and be better than them. I want to be a better forex trader than this person. I want to be a better content creator than this person. And that's where most men mistake. It also goes to men, but my majority of people I'm talking to is men, so I will keep my focus on them. And this thing in psychology is termed as the insecure dominance trap. It is when men use control to cover fear. Fear of being irrelevant, fear of being loved, fear of being unloved, fear of being seen as powerless. You can see it in relationships where men lead by forcing or reinforcing themselves as a leader, or forcing themselves to be the leader instead of leading with respect. Or where in a workplace, someone has to definitely remind you that, yo, I'm in charge and you're not in charge, so you have to listen to me. It's just the same thing. It's just weakness disguised as power. And here's where it gets a bit deeper. Sometimes it can turn inwards. That dominance, that need for control can turn inwards. You start micromanaging yourself. You start pushing yourself so hard to the point you get burnout, because you want to maintain the image or the illusion of what other people think of you. And that is a life that honestly I would not like to live. Imagine trying to live to maintain an illusion. And that's what most celebrities do, by the way. They try to maintain an illusion. Not all of them, but most of them who don't have a good sense of self. They're trying to maintain this illusion or this identity of what people think of them. They just want to be better than others, so they just want to maintain that high level hierarchy. We were speaking with my girlfriend yesterday. We were talking about some certain celebrities here who just want to live a good life, but they can't because everyone just puts them to a certain standard. But when you come to think of it, if you go outside, ukitaka kutembea na dera, honestly, who gives a shit? So just go and walk with it. If they think you're broke, who cares? If they think you're less of a person because you're at the top, for these people who are seeing you at the top, if they see you as less for just being yourself and being what you want, I'll honestly tell you one thing. Living a life that is predicted, or that is living a life that is not predicted but is in line with what people think, It's like living in a prison, in a way. Think of people's opinions as a cage, and you, when you try to walk outside, you have the keys. The keys are just to open the lock and walk out. And by that I mean, just do your own thing, man. If you want to go outside and walk, if you want to go outside and just walk in shorts and eat in a kibanda, who gives a shit, honestly? Go and do it, because it's your life. You don't want to live in a cage of other people's opinions, and that's what most men are doing. And then at the end, you become your own bully. You're always pressuring yourself. I don't need to fail. I have to work like this. I have to make sure this goes this way, because I have to make sure people know that I do this thing every single day, that I own expensive clothes, that I imagine. The moment you include people in that sentence, you've already failed, man. You've already failed. And that's how you become your own bully. So all of this makes you toxic, not only to others, but also yourself. And that is a condition, and that is a life that I personally don't like to see my friends or anyone that I cherish to live in, especially myself. I care about myself. And also, not in a bad way, but yeah, I care about myself. I really don't want myself to be living with other people's opinions. It's very difficult. Honestly, it's very difficult. I have interacted with my girlfriend, and my girlfriend has told me a lot about ladies, and I'm like, ugh, pathetic creatures. But we're talking about gentlemen right here. So for gentlemen, I hope you've understood what I meant by dominance. Dominance is good, but toxic dominance isn't that good. There needs to always be in control. So that's the second thing. Look out for someone who always wants to dominate others, who's always too competitive, who always wants to be better than you. That's a very, very toxic person. Very toxic person, who are also being very toxic to themselves. And then the last thing is aggression. So in a nutshell, aggression is just hostility. Hostility. A very hostile environment. And that's the heartbeat of Patrick Bateman's character. He is very violent. He uses violence as a drug, as an outlet to feel more release, to feel alive, to feel dominant, to feel more in control. And while most of us aren't going around doing what he does, which is just beheading people, killing ladies with a chainsaw, having pornography playing on the TV, I'm telling you, that movie is sick. And also killing someone with an axe to the head because because this particular person is more successful than they are. They're not even successful. Patrick Bateman is more successful than that person, but this person is seen as a competition who can reach this particular person. Hence, Patrick Bateman ends his life with an axe, which is absolutely terrible. So most of us aren't going around doing that, also having enormous orgies and stuff like that. Most of us aren't going around doing that. But the same mindset Patrick Bateman shares isn't far off from what we share as well. Not me, not me, but toxic men. I'm not saying that I'm not. I have had my fair share of being toxic. I'm still healing. Everyone deserves therapy. Everyone needs to go to therapy. I'm still healing from that. Sorry. It will take time. And I think the best thing is accepting and putting yourself on that healing journey. But this video is majorly for those people who aren't even aware that they're being toxic. So that's how most men often are. They turn anger into identity. We say things like, I don't get sad at all. I just get mad. And this is because being angry is safer than being sad. Because being sad is being vulnerable, and most men don't want to be vulnerable. But when anger becomes your only language, the only thing you can turn to is anger. Everything becomes a fight. Every disagreement, every mistake, every challenge feels like an attack towards your masculinity. And suddenly, your entire life becomes about defense, protecting your ego instead of healing yourself, protecting your ego instead of listening to others. I have had my fair share, and for those people watching this who know me intimately, they can know And also the biggest thing I've been accused of, honestly, of being toxic is my ego. Ego is good. Ego is very good. I believe you cannot succeed when you don't have ego. I think you'll accept so many trash things in your life just because your sense of self or your ego is very, very low. I think ego is very, very good, but at times it can get a bit overboard. There's the super ego, and when you let that be more in control, it tends to be a bit toxic. And I think most people have accused me of that. But in the end run, I've discussed with myself, had a meeting, and I've seen some might be true, some aspect of it might be true, and other aspect not that true. So you can see it in how men also treat their partners, or even the way they talk to themselves. And at times aggression doesn't have to be always loud. It doesn't have to be, very. I'm trying to come up with the word. It doesn't have to be very hostilic in a way. Sometimes it can be silent. The cold withdrawal, the judgment, the pressure you put on yourself to never fail. That's aggression. And that in psychology, I think it's called self-direct violence.
Yeah.
And with all that, I think I've been able to describe in a much better way what it means to be toxic. You can be toxic to yourself, and you can also be toxic to others. Sometimes you might not even know it, but I think with this video you can be able to really understand whether you're being toxic to others or being toxic to yourself. But it always comes down to this thing: are you willing? Are you willing to push back your ego at times and accept, hey, I'm being like this? At some point in high school, I was very, very, very much a toxic person. I was abusing everyone, every single thing. I'm talking shikabi, I just felt like disrespect. I was abusing everyone, every single person. But until a few weeks ago, I think I came down and saw I didn't really heal from that. I just suppressed it with exercising, with distracting myself, all those years, imagine. And at this point, a few weeks ago, nilianza kujitokeza, nikaanza kuangalia, nikaanza kujipata matusi watu vibaya, nikaanza kupata na I'm just abusing everyone in a bad way. I'm just being toxic to everyone, and I really feel bad for doing that, and also the people who are really wronged by doing that. I am really, really sorry. Please forgive me for that. And I think it is not a disease, but just a lot of men don't know when they're being egotistic. They don't know whether they're being very destructive to themselves. And that's one of the reasons I built this channel to the point where it is right now. It's not where I wanted to be. I've reached the audience that I want. There's some of you who are watching this, and I'm really thankful, but we still haven't reached them. And it's so bad because we tend to hurt other people just because we don't know something. It's as if we are super innocent just because we've suppressed a lot of things in here. And that's the purpose of this channel, to be able to help you release that. So that's my story of how I've been accused of being toxic, and it's true, very true. I'm still healing from that, and it will take time, and I don't think it makes me less worthy of sharing this information. I think it makes me more worthy because it tends to, get down from a bigger point. I haven't shared a lot of clips from this video because I really didn't have that much time of editing that much. I just needed to keep up the schedule. But I wanted this to be a more, one-on-one interaction, and I think maybe I've achieved that. So yeah, you can just go down in the comments and really mention, what do you think? What do you think? When have you been accused of being toxic? And do you think it's true or not after watching this episode? And if so, please share it down. And that's just my story. That's my story. I hope it inspired you to be able to take this information I'm sharing with you much, much better. So thank you so much. That was episode 4 of Strive, of the movie review series, the Strive One podcast. The last episode will be just covering how we can be able to solve all of this in just a nutshell, and also bringing back all the aspects from episode 1 to episode 5 actually, and that will be the last of it, and we'll be entering another series which places it in a playlist. And yeah, so it got a bit emotional at that time. And it's just to show you it's not bad to be emotional at times. As men, it's okay to be emotional. So yeah, I want to end this video right now. Cheers. God bless.